DDR, the first real upgrade, 2000. Imagine the year 2000. Computers were trying to be useful, but every task felt like waiting for a chef who cooks one grain of rice at a time. Then DDR, double data rate SDRAM, burst into the scene with the energy of a teenager who just learned how to ride a bicycle with both feet off the pedals. DDR said, "We can transfer data twice per clock cycle, not once. Let us speed things up a little." And suddenly, computers began to feel like they had somewhere to be. This was a big jump compared to old SDRAM. Instead of waiting for data to leave at a slow one-lane speed, DDR built a second lane on the same road. It literally doubled memory performance without needing two separate sticks. It was smart engineering disguised as a simple idea, and it changed everything. Early DDR ran around 200 to 400 MHz, which sounds laughable now, but at the time it felt like a jet engine strapped to a vacuum cleaner. Of course, DDR was not perfect. It still heated up like a microwave burrito. Its timings were messy, and if you opened too many apps, you could practically hear your computer begging for mercy. But for regular users, DDR was transformative. Games loaded faster. Operating systems were less dramatic. Your PC could open Microsoft Word without taking a deep sigh first. The real beauty of DDR was economical performance. You did not need expensive CPUs or futuristic motherboards. Drop DDR into your system, and suddenly that same old computer acted like it had one serious character development arc. It brought progress to everyday people, not just tech enthusiasts. And like every first child in a family, DDR set expectations for every generation that followed. However, DDR also came with a toxic trait. It refused to work with anything outside its generation. Different notch, different voltage, and zero willingness to cooperate. Try combining it with older RAM, and you would simply get a silent machine staring at you in disappointment. Still, for what it did and what it meant, DDR became the foundation that modern memory is built on. When DDR arrived, it told computers, "You can do better." And for the first time ever, they listened. DDR2, the awkward glow up, 2004. DDR2 arrived looking stylish, but it was one of those style transformations that hides an identity crisis. It promised higher speeds and lower power consumption, and indeed, it delivered. DDR2 pushed clock speeds to around 533 to 800 MHz, which at the time felt like your PC finally discovered caffeine. Its voltage dropped to 1.8 volts instead of DDR's 2.5, which meant less heat and less wasted energy. On paper, DDR2 looked like a genius. In reality though, DDR2 had a personality that took time to mature. Its early versions were actually slower than DDR in real-world usage. Imagine someone speaking twice as fast, but forgetting their words halfway through every sentence. That was DDR2 in 2004. It tried so hard, but its latency was high and early. Adopters were confused. Computers felt like they were speeding up and slowing down at the same time. It made progress feel inconsistent. Eventually, manufacturers figured out how to optimize timings, and DDR2 settled into its role. It became cheaper to produce, widely available, and a go-to upgrade for budget and mid-range PCs. Gamers began enjoying smoother performance. Office users no longer screamed at spreadsheets taking 5 seconds to load, and browsers could handle a few more tabs without becoming suicidal. DDR2 took time, but it grew up into something reliable. One big improvement was efficiency. DDR2 became known as the first memory that actually cared about power draw. Laptops could run cooler. Desktops no longer felt like mini ovens. Businesses liked that because they saved a little money on electricity and cooling over time. DDR2 set the tone that RAM upgrades are not only about speed, but smart power usage. Just like DDR, DDR2 refused to work with generations above or below it. Its notch placement changed, its voltage changed, and it spoke a different electrical language. If RAM sticks were people, DDR2 would be the stylish cousin who only hangs out with its own age group, refusing to socialize with older or younger relatives. By the time DDR2 matured, it proved something critical. Innovation needs patience. Even if you stumble at first, you can eventually dominate with the right balance of speed, efficiency, and practicality. DDR2 was not perfect, but it became a standard that helped usher computers into a smoother, more modern era. DDR3, the long reigning champion, 2007. DDR3 came in like the person who starts going to the gym and never stops. It improved efficiency, improved timings, boosted speeds, and became incredibly popular for more than a decade. DDR3 speeds began around 1066 MHz and eventually reached 2133 MHz, and even higher with overclocking. It dropped voltage again down to 1.5 volts, which meant less heat and better laptop battery life. DDR3 was strong, calm, and reliable. This was the first RAM generation that felt modern. You could open dozens of browser tabs, run games without constant stutters, and multitask like a functional human being instead of a stressed pigeon. DDR3 turned computers into actual tools instead of constant disappointments. Gamers loved DDR3, developers relied on it, office workers benefited from it. DDR3 became the memory that stayed useful for so long that even after DDR4 arrived, people kept using DDR3 like an old car that still runs perfectly. Servers kept it, laptops kept it, budget desktops refused to upgrade because DDR3 worked too well to replace. DDR3 was that legendary champion who simply did not retire. The efficiency gains also mattered. DDR3 could run longer without overheating. Systems did not need aggressive cooling. Laptops lasted longer on battery. DDR3 made performance affordable and practical. It democratized speed and efficiency. However, DDR3 did show its age. Eventually, as games got bigger, video editing got more intense, and multitasking became heavier, DDR3 started to sweat. It was like watching a retired athlete forced to run a marathon again. Still tough, still respectable, but clearly struggling at the newer workloads. Compatibility continued to be exclusive. DDR3 did not physically fit into DDR2 or DDR4 slots. No matter how hard you pushed, prayed, or forced, computers would refuse. DDR generations remained stubborn family members who refused to mix. But in the history of RAM, DDR3 holds a special legacy. It lasted longer, helped more users, and balanced speed with affordability more than any generation before it. It was the people's RAM, and computers loved it because it worked hard without bragging. DDR4, the sophisticated demanding upgrade, 2014. DDR4 stepped into the room like someone wearing designer clothes and sunglasses indoors. It was faster than DDR3 right from the start, beginning at 2133 MHz and extending far beyond 4000 MHz with better architecture. It dropped voltage even more to around 1.2 volts, which meant cooler systems and quieter cooling fans. DDR4 brought elegance, efficiency, and confidence, but DDR4 had high standards. To use DDR4, you had to upgrade your motherboard, upgrade your CPU, and commit to modern architecture. DDR4 was basically saying, if you want me, you need to improve yourself. Many users resisted at first. Why buy a whole new PC just to use a new type of RAM? But once people made the jump, they understood why. DDR4 improved bandwidth and lowered latency in meaningful ways. Games loaded assets faster. Editing Ultra HD video became practical for consumers. Virtual machines ran without drama. DDR4 made PCs feel future-ready. Paired with solid-state drives, DDR4 transformed computers from sluggish donkeys into racehorses. Another major improvement was consistency. DDR4 rarely offered weird half improvements like DDR2 did. It simply worked better, faster, and cooler. Its performance gains did not feel like conditional upgrades. They were obvious. DDR4 also brought optimizations for multi-core processors. As CPUs began adding more cores, DDR4 helped feed them enough data so they were not left idle. DDR3 struggled to keep all cores fully busy in high-performance workflows. DDR4 made full-power computing more realistic. Of course, DDR4 continued the family tradition of refusing compatibility with older generations. Different notch, different voltage, and no negotiation. DDR4 was not here to be friendly, only to be superior. Eventually, DDR4 became mainstream and affordable, and it remains extremely capable today. For many people, DDR4 still feels modern enough that there is little rush to upgrade. DDR4 set a standard of refinement and performance that future RAM generations would have to exceed, not just improve. DDR5, the futuristic overachiever, 2021. DDR5 arrived like a prodigy child who skipped grades and already knows calculus. DDR5 did not just raise the bar, it ignored the bar completely. DDR5 began at 4800 MHz, which is already faster than the best of DDR4, and it continues scaling far beyond. It adds more than speed. It doubles or even triples bandwidth, adds built-in power management chips, and splits memory banks for massive efficiency. DDR5 offers far better multitasking. It feeds multi-core and hybrid CPUs with insane amounts of data without choking. Tasks like AI processing, 3D rendering, scientific computing, high-resolution gaming, and professional editing all benefit dramatically. DDR5 feels like a piece of future technology that somehow ended up in consumer machines. However, DDR5 also behaves like an overqualified genius forced to do simple chores. If you are just browsing social media, watching videos, or playing lightweight games, DDR5 will not feel much different than DDR4. It shines in heavy workloads, not in typical everyday computing. Many users who buy DDR5 for casual use are paying for power they are not using, like buying a Ferrari to visit the grocery store. DDR5 also costs more. New motherboards, new CPUs, and expensive RAM modules mean the full upgrade requires commitment. DDR5 does not just ask you to upgrade, it requires it. It is the strict teacher of memory technology, but DDR5 is strategic. Its power management chip moves voltage regulation away from the motherboard and onto the RAM itself. That means cleaner design, better future optimization, and far more scalability. DDR5 is built for tomorrow's CPUs, GPUs, and applications before they even arrive. Like all DDR memory, DDR5 refuses compatibility with other generations. New notch, new specs, new standards, no compromise. DDR5 is the future, not because it is popular yet, but because everything around it will eventually need its capabilities. It is ahead of its time, waiting for the world to catch up. DDR6. The rumored future. DDR6 is like that mysterious student everyone keeps gossiping about, but no one has actually seen in class. We don't know exactly when it's arriving, but every technology company keeps whispering soon like they're teasing a movie sequel. DDR6 is expected to be the superhero version of RAM. Faster, stronger, and way too powerful for the everyday open Chrome and watch YouTube lifestyle most people live. The rumored speeds, potentially twice as fast as DDR5, with improvements that make multitasking look effortless. The bandwidth could increase dramatically, letting computers handle cinematic level workloads without breaking a sweat. And power efficiency should improve again, because apparently RAM wants to be a fitness influencer now, fast and energy conscious. Right now, DDR6 is most likely in laboratories getting tested, failing tests, breaking test equipment, and being fed electric juice like a science experiment that might turn into Frankenstein's monster. Some experts believe we'll see early forms around 2026, but consumer adoption might take years. Because, let's be honest, our laptops are still struggling with the idea of having more than 8 GB of RAM. In other words, DDR6 will probably show up ready for high-end AI workstations, gaming rigs that cost more than rent, and servers that practically think. Until then, DDR5 is on the throne, casually sipping voltage and waiting for a worthy challenger.